Now they are.
Hey, Jim. So I called his uncle. I go, hey. He's like, yeah, just talk to him. I'm gonna kick him out. I shouldn't say that. I didn't know. How's Patty? I'm like, he's good. Funny. Hey, I'll talk to you afterwards.
I'll be here tonight.
See ya.
I don't know.
Oh.
How's Pam?
Good.
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 That's good.
Busy. She's working in travel agency and taxiing the kids all around, the grandkids.
Oh yeah, I'll bet.
Get a haircut, Mark.
Good, thank you.
No, you did. You got them all cut. I told my barber today when I made my appointment I should get half price. There's only half a head of hair left. You're done.
What's that? Oh, nice. Very nice. Yeah, we will. Oh, shoot. It is great. Beautiful. I'm gonna ask him where he got it. Good little upstate kid. I'll ask him.
Did you get Sue before she was soaking wet? You get Sue before she was soaking wet? She was just. Oh. So much for that.
Yeah. So is he. Many times.
I'd like to call the stated session of City Council order this evening. Please rise for the invocation followed by the pledge of the flag. We thank you for this opportunity to have an open and public meeting, not allowed in every country in this world. We also thank you for our city in these United States of America during these troublesome times. We thank you for everyone who is here today, giving up their time to help our city and give us the clarity to see our issues and answer them appropriately to help our residents. Help us apply your wisdom as we decide on city matters that affect all of us. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Give me a moment. Mr. Brown? Mr. Ettinger?
Here.
Mr. Milan?
Here.
Mr. O'Connell?
Here.
Dr. Ruggles?
Here.
Mrs. Sultana?
Here.
And Mayor Panto?
Here. At this time, we have the approval of the agenda. I'd like to amend the agenda after action on our minutes to have the swearing in of our new firefighter officer in our fire department. I'd like to make that 6A.
I'll move that correction on the agenda.
Moved in second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Okay. On the amendment is Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
And Mr. Ettinger?
Aye. Thank you. Now that
I need a motion.
motion on all of it.
Yes.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
Moved in second. Discussion on the agenda. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
And Mayor Panto?
Aye. In our packet, we had the meeting of February 23rd minutes. May I have an action on them, please?
Move to approve. Second.
Moved in second. Any additions, corrections, or deletions? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
And Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Evening, council members. Presenting Lieutenant Ron Beam for promotion to captain this evening. He was hired February 22nd of 2010. He was promoted to acting lieutenant March 15th of 2019. He's been acting captain since the retirement of Captain Muchler in June of 2021. He's in charge of our department radio equipment, the EMS program. He's in charge of ordering the supplies and keeping the equipment serviceable. He's also our EMS liaison with our outside agencies, and he works with Dr. Faccio, who is our department medical director. So, Mayor. Right here in front.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Ronald Bean. Do solemnly swear that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Pennsylvania. That I will discharge the duties of my office of fire captain with fidelity.
He has to sign it, so do you.
Yeah, you gotta sign everything. Don't forget to share it, council. I'm going.
We'll approve this now. We'll approve this now, the resolution. We'll move it up. Okay, just got sworn in before, but
Do you want to wait till the end? Okay.
Congratulations, Captain.
Yes. Sure. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, members of City Council. According to the Charter of the City of Easton and the third-class City Code, I'm going to present to you this evening the state of the city. Back in 2020, when this pandemic first started to arrive, I was quoted in the paper saying, "We will not just survive the pandemic, we will thrive when it is over." And the state of the city tonight is that we are thriving. When I took office in 2008, the common words then were Bloods, Crips, Latin Kings, violence, guns, shootings, drugs, etc. Today, it's not those words, but growth, economic recovery, financial stability, and then, of course, new businesses, and, of course, that brings us to parking. I don't need to tell you that the past couple of years have been difficult, but as mayor, I'm proud to tell you all that Easton is stronger. We are a resilient, thriving community that sets the standard to which other communities are aspiring. We are recognized throughout the state and even getting recognized around the country for our renaissance. We have hosted Governor Wolf here to open and address our affordable housing crisis, and recently we had a visit from HUD Secretary Marcia Fudge, and when she was asked why Easton, she replied, "Because Easton does it right." Make no mistake, we will continue to battle the global challenges we face, namely the public health crisis precipitated by COVID-19 and the pandemic, and as well as the economic fallout from the novel coronavirus that has placed on our economy. It seemed like that one day I was in Washington at the White House briefing for mayors about this thing called COVID, and in March of 2020, really didn't know anything about it. And then Vice President Pence, and the next week, I came home and the economy came to a halt. Suddenly, COVID was threatening the lives of the most vulnerable in our society, throwing millions out of work, shuttering schools and businesses. The next 2 years seemed like a blur to me and our staff as they started to be melding together. As local leaders, together with the essential workers and our healthcare, police, fire, and medical service responders, this administration has been on the front lines daily, dealing with one crisis after another. Senior staff has not missed one day of work in the last 2 years. The good news is that this pandemic now seems to be at a manageable level, hopefully, but the journey is far from over as we continue to recover and rebuild our city, as the most of our projects and programs were delayed over the last 2 years. It's an honor for me to serve as mayor of my hometown. Together, however, we're going to continue to accomplish remarkable things. We'll continue to improve our core services. We'll continue to grow our local and regional economy. We'll continue to improve our quality of life. We'll continue to maintain the financial foundation we've built. And we'll continue to provide council with a balanced budget with no tax increase as we have since we took office. And we will continue to work hard to include everyone, regardless of ethnic, racial background, socioeconomic background, religious background, any kind of background in our city's story. However, the pandemic isn't over, and we may have many personal reasons not to get vaccinated, but please, if you can, get vaccinated and vaccinate those that love you, because it's for the ones around you, not just you. We need your help in fighting back the COVID virus. Last year brought external challenges that were unprecedented, and they all happened at the same time. We weren't just dealing with a pandemic last year. Add to that a country that had racial justice issues and questions on our election process and an attack on our capital. We had a tough year nationally and locally. Locally, fortunately, we had several demonstrations, but all of them, every single one was peaceful. We had additional issues facing Easton, such as an ongoing pandemic, public safety challenges, barriers to justice and opportunity, finances, climate change, homelessness, inflation, supply chain issues, labor shortages, affordable housing, increase in mental illnesses, infrastructure needs, and so much more. The key to our success was that we confronted the reality of the situation. We responded even before we knew exactly what we were facing. There was a long list of innovative steps that we took and were tailored to our specific needs in Easton, some which have garnered national and regional attention, like our outside dining program, our second annual Winter Village, but nothing as important as the refinancing this council approved as recommended by our financial advisors, refinancing our debt, saving us in 2020 and 2021 $2.6 million worth of debt service and taking advantage of the lower interest rates. Many of our neighbors faced tragedy over the past 2 years. I would like to just join me in a moment of silence, keeping in our prayers all the ones that we've lost from the pandemic and all the people of Ukraine as the war begun by Russia is started. We pray for those people, at least 4 of my own friends that have passed from COVID. We pray for the service members, first responders, their families, and all the people in Ukraine, and thank them for their service and sacrifices. They continue to strive to uphold and protect the ideals of our democracy. A democracy is not only threatened from abroad today, but also threatened domestically as well. Our biggest success, however, in 2021 was the American Rescue Plan Act and our allocation specifically to Easton. The federal government finally realized with the passing of President Biden's American Rescue Plan that if you want to reopen America, you have to start at the local level. For all too long, for the last 60, 70 years, local communities, cities, boroughs, towns, and townships, and tribal villages got their money through state allocations. The federal money went to the state, and then we had to beg the state. As you know, the state's allocation of ARPA funds right now is $61 million of that, which was supposed to go to local communities and counties, is held up because the Senate decided that they were going to put it in a rainy day fund, and they just weren't going to distribute it. Certainly not what the federal government anticipated. But specifically for me, it meant daily phone calls, letter writing, and a lot of help from Congresswoman Wild and Senator Casey's office, as well as the National League of Cities, the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and the Pennsylvania Municipal League. I cannot tell you enough that what we pay into those three organizations each year, we've got back 10, 20, 125 fold. We really appreciate their staff that did the lobbying effort and all my colleagues across this country who fought, but most importantly, they helped me get an allocation that was given to the city of $2.6 million to $20.7 million. When you think that a community like Palmer Township is getting almost as much as the $2 million, it's kind of hard for us to understand how Easton was only going to get that much. But thanks to the Congresswoman and the Senator and these organizations, we were able to get that allocation and our fair share from that allocation. Affordable housing. The most significant and most difficult issue we're working on to address right now is the housing crisis, both rental units and owner-occupied. Believe me, you can go travel anywhere around the country. There is no silver bullet solution to address the housing crisis. It's mostly a lack of supply and a market-driven issue. Tonight, my Affordable Housing Task Force will present the report for your consideration. These volunteers worked hard before and during the pandemic to give me the report. My administration has begun to assemble properties to be included in this program, and we recently did purchase several properties, but we're also assisting in the construction of an additional 52 affordable rental units on the south side, in addition to the 55 that are here at the mill at Easton, which will open up within the next 35 days. As much as I'm ready to put 21 behind us, when we took our office, our goal was to develop the whole town, not just the downtown. And throughout the downtown, a lot of times this administration is getting told that we only care about the big developments. Let me tell you, these are the developments that I really care. Thank you, Tyba. These are developments I really care about because these are the ones that make our neighborhoods better places for people to live. Things like this, just cleaning brick and painting, and this one down on Spring Garden Street, which one of our president of our Historic District Commission owns, and it's a wonderful facility. This one across the street in the West Ward from the courthouse, you look at the picture on the left, you say, who would ever cover up all that beautiful brick and architectural features and make a square window out of a beautiful oval window? It happens. This one, just some new clapboard, and this one is hardy board, cement board, replacing the old asphalt shingles. And of course, this one on the city south side, which was done by the Habitat for Humanity. These are the important ones that really matter to me and matter to my staff and the Department of Community Economic Development that does this. And we do this on a daily basis. Unfortunately, there's over 9,000 units in the city of Easton structures. And so we can't highlight everyone. And the press will always give the $100 million project, the project more than a $100,000 project. We are very fortunate that last year we opened up the new Cheston Elementary School. That brings all three elementary schools, March, Paxnosa, and Cheston, into really credible physical assets of the school district that our kids go to. Both March School and Paxnosa, where I started teaching when it was Easton Junior High School, have been renovated and restored to their original prominence. And now Cheston School is a brand new school because it was found, again, that those buildings that were built back in the 60s and 70s just couldn't stand the test of time. This is a beautiful facility. It's right across the street from Easton Yards and the mill at Easton. Easton's vibrant arts and entertainment district continues to be a destination that draws thousands of people every weekend to our facility, to our downtown, and our restaurants in the neighborhoods. They also come for shows at the State Theater, dinner at one of our more than 36 culinary destinations, or a family visit to the Crayola Experience, the Siegel Museum, or Nurture Nature. Yesterday, I met with city restaurant owners to finalize our recommendation for outdoor dining this year to present it to the City Council at your next meeting on March 23rd. Our town gown partnership with Lafayette College continues to be one that is emulated by many others. The new residence hall at Lafayette opened along with the trolley stop diner and a new bookstore. And last year, Lafayette inducted a new president. We are excited to work with new President Nicole Farmer-Hurd, the Board of Trustees, faculty, and staff to continue our positive town and gown partnership that we have developed over the last 20 years. In addition to former President Byerly leaving, we also said goodbye to men's basketball coach Fran O'Hanlon for the last 27 years at the helm of Lafayette's basketball program. February 26th, I declared as Fran O'Hanlon Day in Easton, not just because of his career as a basketball coach and a resident of College Hill, but also for the many organizations, primarily Easton Area Community Center and the Boys and Girls Club, that he helped with bringing his players over to do basketball clinics and talk to the kids about life skills, not just basketball skills. This year, we look forward to the neighborhood on College Hill of getting, the college will be paying for what we did get a grant for it as well, but they're matching the grant to get the pedestrian safety improvements along Cattell Street with bump outs and crosswalks. This year, we will also see the opening of the city's new parking garage, the new mixed-use Commodore, which is, as you see, the steel structure is going up. The Seville, which was open, and more than 50% of their units are already occupied. They haven't even been open a month yet. The Marquee, replacing our more than 50-year-old parking garage. The Watermark project down behind the Governor Wolf Building, allowing the Governor Wolf Building still to be seen. The Confluence that we were over here at 185 South 3rd Street. And, of course, the Nurture Nature Environmental Science Center and Arts Center down at the Bushkill Creek across from the Carlstone Arch Trail. VM Development is also going to be building apartments as part of that. However, with these developments, we have almost $1 billion of investment in the last 13 years, and we'll add as many as 2,500 to our population. Almost replacing, but never fully replacing, the 3,700 people that were displaced during the urban renewal years, and the more than 10,000 that fled to the suburbs in the 60s and 70s. Our primary goals will always be clean and safe. And with that, the clean and safe with a strong financial foundation is what I'd like to address tonight. The police department, under the direction of Director Chief Carl Scalzo, has worked tirelessly through the pandemic and placed themselves at significant risk to ensure a bright future after the pandemic is over. I am very pleased to report to you again today that for the last 11 years, the crime rate for the violent Part 1 crimes has decreased. I know that the press had put out that it decreased by 15%, the violent crimes, and I don't know what theirs are. Ours comes from the UCR Part 1 crimes. We have it down as 7.84%. Either way, you see a decline in our crime, and that's really what has been the success. When they interviewed people on the street, they talked about feeling secure and safe to walk in the neighborhoods in the downtown. As this chart indicates, we've decreased from 459 in 2020 to 423 in 2021. But just as important, our calls for service have been decreased by 18.69%. Also, on the financial side, we've maintained the millage at the same rate as it was when we came into office. Our goal now is to get it to go lower. The financial integrity of Easton is something of which I'm most proud because it directly impacts all of our residents and their ability to stay in their homes and encourages more investment in our city. The Finance Department under Director Mark Lisinecki continues to work closely with the administration and a first and foremost in maintaining a budget that does not call for an increase in real estate taxes. We haven't raised fees since 2009. And if you recall, in 2009, those city council members who were here, we did raise one major tax, and that was the earned income tax, solely for the pensions. Speaking of pensions, I'd just like to mention that our pensions are doing extremely well. And as of the reading of this, our budgets have always ended in a surplus each year, and we've given our pension fund $6 million of our general fund is going directly to our pensions to pay that mandatory municipal obligation, which when we took office was $2 million, is now $6 million. Our pension investments are doing well under the direction of Mike Glovis and Morgan Stanley, who we switched to about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And the conflict in Ukraine, when it developed, our pension managers took action, selling off all of our Russian securities. I'm very proud of the fact that tonight I can stand here and say that our $71 million that we have in our pension fund, not one dime is invested in anything in the Russian economy. The market value is roughly $71 million, an increase from $40 million in 2008. Yes, we're doing well in our investments, as most people are. However, our pension fund is still under 70% funded. Standard & Poor's continues to give us an A rating, so our credit is high quality and very low risk. This excellent rating will save our taxpayer millions of dollars over the next 2 decades on all of our capital improvements. Unfortunately, one of the goals that we did have was to reach 30,000 by the 2020 population. And as you can see, it's 27,036. We did fall short for 2 reasons. One, our projects were stalled because of COVID, so the big projects that we thought were going to come online didn't. And if you remember, under the former administration, they cut the census short 2 months. So we didn't have a chance for the enumerators to go out and actually talk to people who didn't respond by mail. And that's unfortunate. And also, for some reason, they were supposed to count college students, and they didn't count the 2,700 that were at Lafayette College. So if we had the 2,700, we would have been okay. Our fire department has been extremely active. Although they only had 10 building fires, they're really a rescue department as well as a fire department. And the fires that they had were severe enough that that we were not only called out our own fire department, but in many cases we had to call out local volunteers to help us. They responded to 1,713 calls for service of which 415 were medical service calls, which they do respond to as well, and 654, which we would consider non-emergency activities, but they're like car accidents and things that may have a fuel spill or need the fire department to go out, maybe throw down some, what do you call that stuff, Ron? Speedy dry, yeah, thank you. Speedy dry to get up the oils and greases and gas. Thankfully, there were no fatalities for civilians in 2021, and there were no fatalities to our fire department, which was really helpful. I mean, we hear about these other big fires. I want to thank our code department also for helping to keep the number of fires down. Our Department of Public Works, under the team led by Director David Hopkins, Public Works is the largest department. Not only had a full calendar of activities and tasks, but also had to deal with the same supply chain logistics that the private sector had to deal with. Street trees. This department has helped us attain our climate action control plan, our street tree replacement, replacing our urban forests, MS4 stormwater management, all of our sustainability environmental issues, including recommending that we purchase 4 hybrid patrol cars for the police department this year. Thank you, Dr. Ruggles, which will not only save us thousands of dollars in gasoline, but it will clean up our air and not emit the amount of CO2 gases that we're emitting. This is Washington Street, and the next picture is a fake. I will tell you that right now. But when we had a goal of reaching 5,000 street trees planted before we were out of office, and I want to show you what street trees does for a city. That's what street trees do to that very block. They're photoshopped in, I'm sorry to say, but they're not in yet, but we are replacing trees on Ferry Street, but we need Washington and Butler Street yet. We just put the urban forest. You may have been reading about the forest that Rob is working on down at Lower Hackett Park, the greenhouse that we're building. I know there's a lot of debate about climate change. And I hope I don't live I won't live to the day that we see it. But as a person who used to teach anthropology, dinosaurs didn't just disappear. They didn't just evolve and go out of evolution. There was a reason. There was something catastrophic that happened to the planet. And we look at our own Delaware River. We know that the Delaware River was formed by the last ice age. As the ice receded, we had valleys. So I think we need to do our part. And since I've been in office, we've tried to do more and more environmentally, and we're not going to stop. We're going to continue to do more. The Planning and Codes Department. Busy, 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 thanks to the excellent work of the Department of Economic Development and Community and Economic Development. OpenGov is the new software that they have down there, and due to the aggressive economic development, our Planning and Codes Department, under direction of Director Stephen Narowski, continues to see an increase in permit activity. There were 433, or a 22% increase in applications filed during 2021, making the year the most active to date, with a 3.5% increase even over the previous high in 2018. The department received and processed 2,432 applications, of which 1,542 were construction permits and 883 were buyer notification and inspection reports. These requests resulted in 2,200 permit applications and 949 buyer notifications. Additionally, our code enforcement officer created and had 232,356 code enforcement cases, logged in over 4,300 activity hours in low and moderate income areas, and issued a 28% increase in the quality of life tickets that we started. You probably may remember we recommended this to City Council about 3 years ago. This is for those quality of life issues, debris, dirt, litter around, and it's working. Our certified blight properties were reduced by 6 to 23. And everybody knows about our largest blighted property was Silk, and Silk is now a beautiful development. But we had a lot of blighted properties, and 6 were reduced, and we currently have under construction to be removed another 5 from the list. Unfortunately, as we remove them, we're also increasing the number. The Planning and Codes Department also worked to improve its online presence, enhance access and convenience to all stakeholders. With the selection of OpenGov, the department has worked to create an intuitive online portal to receive all applications, reducing the need for paper. The website went live this past month. The new system will increase efficiencies for the department and will allow for better coordination between the department bureaus, primarily code, health, planning, and zoning, as well as public works and finance. It will also generate better data reports. Department of Community and Economic Development. This is one of my favorite slides because I usually do a morph where the new morphs over the old. This is on 4th Street. And I could show you 100 of these throughout the city of Easton, but unfortunately they don't get the type of coverage that the Confluence or the Seville or the Commodore gets. It is amazing what is happening out in our community, and we need to continue it. And that's why, in addition to the affordable housing grant that we're going to be creating with our ARPA funds, we're also going to have a $2 million facade restoration program, because right now the only place you can get a facade restoration is downtown because it's given out by GEDP and Main Street. It's not the city. The city's going to have one that's citywide, and we're looking forward to that. But the Townley is another DCED success story. That was a friend of mine, actually. They used to shop at my family store. They used to live there, and then when they left 10, 12 years ago, it just became vacant. And it's a huge mansion on Millionaires Row that today is a beautiful bed and breakfast, and I'm happy to report that the vacancy rate there is very low. The occupancy rate is very high. They're very, very happy. Our Health Bureau has also issued 212 food establishment licenses. We conducted 383 inspections, an increase of 29%, of which 18 were new facilities. We have, obviously, we're becoming more and more of a culinary destination. Last year, the DCED successfully secured, under the direction of Director John Kingsley, has been extremely busy. Last year, they successfully secured $6.2 million in the highly competitive RCAP state grants. Let me remind council, these grants are extremely competitive. There used to be $900 million in those grants, and now there's $400 million, and they have to go across a really large state. So it's very competitive, and to win that is very great. And that brings our total over $80 million in the last 13 years in county, state, and federal grants, or what I call OPM, other people's money. The other branches of government know that Easton is a good investment, so they're coming in. And this is the proof that we are doing well with our economic development program. It's all about assessed values. The 185 South 3rd Street Confluence will give the City of Easton General Fund approximately $1 million a year in tax revenue. That's a huge amount of money. Remember, our general fund is only a little over $32 million. So $1 million is a lot. Add to that the marquee, which will be about another $1 million, and pretty soon you have $2 million of new money that our residents don't have to pay. Municipal government 101 simply says you can either increase taxes to meet all the new costs, or you can increase the people and the properties that pay for it. You have one choice. This is your choice. We've chosen the latter, that we increase the amount of taxes and revenues collected from people who are new to our city and come in and build and invest their money. So that is, you see, is probably about a 25% increase. And in the 4 years prior to taking office, taxes in the city of Easton went up over 100%. Our city administrator, Louis Campos, never envisioned having to work through both a global pandemic and a real estate boom in the same time frame. There were days of last year in 2021 that the city workforce faced human capital shortages due to COVID, and leaving both management and union groups to work together to solve labor shortage issues. And there were moments where management had vigorous internal debates on how to manage the growth of the city, including modernizing systems to more efficiently operate government and provide data makers. In the short run, we were able to forecast financial and economic certainty, but unfortunately there remains external risk from market unknowns if the pandemic decides to again intensify, or if the inflation becomes overbearing. Speaking of inflation, healthcare costs. Under the direction of Human Resources Manager Stephanie Weber, the administration has adopted several strategies to control healthcare costs, including dealing directly with prescription carriers rather than going through our healthcare company, introduction of high deductible plans with city contributors to a health savings account, increased plan deductibles that we've been able to negotiate with our unions, and continued emphasis on consumerism and employee wellness programs. But also, in addition to healthcare costs, is our workers' compensation costs. As you can see, they've gone up from 2016 under $500,000 to 2021 over $600,000. That's 2 mills of taxes. And when I look at everything at millage, our millage is worth about $320,000, so it's 2 mills of taxes. During the 2021, the City Administration and Human Services came to a contract agreement with the Fraternal Order of Police, Lodge 17, avoiding costly Act 111 arbitration. Our contract that we signed is for 4 years. Information technology continues to be the brain of our administration as more and more information is needed and more data is needed to make good decisions. In 2021, we retained Mazen Ferris to oversee our information technology department with the retirement of Frank Caruso. We purchased server hardware to virtualize City Hall, and which we're going to continue to do. There's a CARES Act money that we're going to use to virtualize this one, more importantly, conference room and the other conference room, so that we have that. Also reviewed and improved the security for networks and systems, deploy a new firewall appliance for City Hall building, and deployed new hardware for the police department, new servers to upgrade City Hall's data center operations. Also deployed a multi-factor authentication service to improve security and remote access. Remember, ransomware is not something that just happens to big cities. It also happens in small cities. Just ask Allentown. Allentown was hit with a ransomware about 3 years ago. And they paid millions of dollars to get their data back. So the money we're spending is like an insurance policy. In 2020 and 2021 were low points. We must make 2022 a turning point. We need to renew our community. It takes vision, hard work, and cooperation. As we say, we may not have a NIS like Allentown or a CRIS like Bethlehem. We do it the old-fashioned way. We work hard at it. And I thank City Council for your hard work. For example, our public works employees worked really hard to erect the peace candle and set up the ice skating rink for the Winter Village and all the huts within 1 week. We turned it around from outdoor dining to Winter Village within a week, and that's amazing. And we thank AFSCME for their assistance in doing that and the hard work of many people, including our partners with GEDP and our sponsors, such as Lehigh Valley Health Network. We have now secured the Winter Village as an annual event. This will be our 3rd year. There's already been meetings planned and some ideas that we have to attract even more people to our retailers. The interesting thing about our retailers is our hut retailers, 2 of them were online only. They just opened up, both of them last week. Is the Suma and Easton Candle just opened up stores in our downtown. So the Winter Village is actually serving as a business incubator where people are actually moving into actual storefronts. Our intent is to move forward on key public investments this coming year. It's going to be a very busy year. New city entrance signage and streetscape improvements are on the south side from I-78 to downtown. Center Square upgrade project has started, the first in 60 years. An upgrade on Wood Avenue, completion of the new decorative streetlights on Northampton Street in the West Ward, completion of a feasibility study for a pedestrian bridge linking Larry Holmes Drive with which was just rated as the #1 trail in the United States, the Delaware and Lehigh Navigation Corridor. So we're really interested about that. Maybe it'll help us get our grant. We have a planning grant that will be done this year, correct, Dave? We do the planning of that grant. That grant we have, we just need the implementation grant because it'll be several $1 million. We're also looking for the neighborhood upgrade to our neighborhood parks, pocket parks, the Choice Neighborhoods grant application, which if awarded would help to recreate not only the West Ward, section of the West Ward, but also the Union Street Public Housing Group to be similar to our Nesson Heights like we have over on the south side. Lafayette College will be assisting with the pedestrian improvements and streetscape improvements at Cattell Street, which should start this summer as well. Our summer playground, I will also be recommending to Easton City Council within the next few weeks the ARPA budget, revised budget according to the final rules we finally did get, that will bring back summer playground programs at Nevin Park, Centennial Park, Vanderveer Park, Lackner Park, and Pioneer Park. Complete with programs, games, and sports. We will hire 10 counselors to do that through the American Recovery Plan. If the young adults that we hire can be successful, who knows? It may be able to compete with the video games. I seriously think if kids play knock hockey, they would like it. And they would forget about their video games and want to go down to the playground and play knock hockey like I did when I was growing up. But You know, we also played basketball and baseball, and we had a volleyball team. It was interesting. And then once a week we went to the swimming pool, which is no longer at Riverside Park. As I look at the politics that seem to be dividing our country nationally, I'm proud of the East of Easton and the people of all philosophies, ethnic and racial backgrounds, and political views. We've been able to keep it civil, keep it constructive, and keep it neighborly. It's been said that if you want to go somewhere fast, go alone. But if you want to go somewhere far, go together. And I'm very proud of the team that we have, not only in City Hall, but outside of City Hall, because this might be the greatest lesson learned from the last 2 years, that together we are stronger than we are individually. They say that people are always looking for a shining city on the hill. Easton was founded and built on 7 hills, in case you didn't know that. While we still have neighborhoods that need investment, schools that need more support, kids that need help, and have so many hardworking residents still reaching for their share of the American dream, each of those hills and valleys in between shine with a spirit of determination, generosity, and respect for one another that glows brighter than any other corner of this country. Thanks to a lot of hard work, Easton is again becoming the shining city it once was. Leaders cannot lead without a team. I am blessed to work with individuals who wave the banner of Easton High. A big thank you to my team, the directors, the supervisors, and all of the sponsoring groups that we deal with every day. And our residents who are working to improve the quality of life every person who comes through our doors and calls Easton home. I'd like to thank my wife and family. They have not only supported me, but also have been my sounding board on many of these issues we face. Yes, our vision is progressive. Our vision is bold. But it's important that we do this. We are not afraid to try new things. We tried a Winter Village. We didn't know if we could do it. And not only in the middle of a pandemic, we not only did it, we did it well, thanks to a lot of hard work. I want to specifically thank John Kingsley and Dave Hopkins, who did a great job, and our Amy's here, and people from GEDP. We really put together something that they're now emulating in other parts of the country. Our ice skating rink is, the company told us that they're getting a lot of calls from valley-wide municipalities asking about how to do it. So we're thankful for that. But with all those things and all the festivals that we have another one coming up on May 7th where we're bringing the circle back to the circle. And it'll be a big night for Easton. The fact of the matter is, there's still challenges. Whether it's domestic tranquility, affordable housing, rising rental rates, homelessness, public safety, inflation, blight, infrastructure, an increase in mental illness, and more. We have a lot of challenges that we have to face. And hopefully I can say that we're going to face them with courage and a bold vision. The state of the city continues to thrive, and we are restoring the pride in Easton. One of my favorite slides, and I use it a lot in my comments and talks throughout the city. In 2008, I don't think there's anyone in the suburbs that ever talked about being from Easton. And I don't think anyone in the suburbs knew what this flag was that we fly all around the city. Now the Red Rover football team marches out on every game out on the field with the Easton flag. The high school Red Rover marching band marches with the Easton flag, and they're starting to restore their pride. And a lot of people said, "Oh, we just moved the Cottingham Stadium out to the high school." That's the worst thing that could have happened. It's our tie, not only to tradition, but it's our tie to the city, that it was an Easton school district. It wasn't always the Easton area school district until 1961. But that flag and those kids carrying that flag, it means a lot to me. I think it says a lot about where we've come, and the state of our city is thriving, not just surviving. Thank you. I'd like to introduce the chair and vice chair. As I said during my State of the City, we created a mayor's task force on affordable housing because as I have a daughter who is 29, almost 30 years old. She's been married for 5 years, has a little baby, 2 years old. They lived in Bayonne because he worked in New York. Then he got a job with the Philadelphia Union. He lived in Westchester, PA. And now they live in Lavalette. They moved back to Bayonne. He works in the city again. They worked, and they're out looking for a house. And he has a really good job with the NBA. He's not a ball player. He's an administrator. But it's difficult. So I know for them how hard it is. Imagine if you're working at a job that's making $12 to $15 an hour, how hard it is to buy a home. So I'd like to introduce our chair and vice chair for the Affordable Housing Task Force to present their findings. I formed this task force with the hope that we might begin a seriously tackle affordability for residents and at above the 80% median household income to help people move from renting to owning and generate lasting wealth. Even though we have two developments that we're helping, the mill at Easton and a new one that we're going to be working with Shiloh Church on down along Canal Street. That'll provide about 108 to 110 rental units for affordable rental units, but that's not helping. It's not helping. As a person who grew up in public housing until I was 10 years old, it wasn't until my dad was able to get a job where we could buy a house where you start to accumulate generational wealth. And that's what our task was my task to them was to tell them, I really want to get into affordable housing, not just rental units. This group contains many dedicated public servants who have a tremendous amount of work to do, and they're able to present it to you today with that in mind. Neil and Kurt, the floor is all yours. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Good evening. As you heard, my name is Kurt Carlson. I'm the vice chair of the Easton Affordable Housing Task Force. For those of you who don't know me, I've only met a few of you. I have a background in building trades, strategic planning, and grant writing, in addition to being an award-winning researcher and historian. Over the past 15 years, I've managed close to $40 million in property and assets, and I currently serve as a community engagement and leadership consultant for initiatives in Pennsylvania and Illinois. My wife and I live in a small cottage on College Hill with our 5-month-old daughter. 5 months just yesterday. For the last 2 years, I have had the privilege of working alongside the chair of our task force, Neil Kaplan. Neil is a senior executive vice president in People Security Bank and Trust. He serves on boards for several regional community and business development organizations, and he has been championing affordable housing initiatives across the Lehigh Valley for decades. Neil is a self-described George Bailey character. That's a good-hearted banker, for those of you unfamiliar with the film It's a Wonderful Life. And his dedication to supporting community-focused nonprofits and businesses supports this assertion. He has offered us steady, insightful leadership during these uncertain times, and he will introduce you to our team of dedicated volunteers. Top button? Not top button.
The arrow left.
Arrow left, got it.
Oh, I'm sorry, arrow right.
Arrow right, got it.
Usually I'm a history of bloopers, so we got off to a great start. First of all, before I get started, it's been a pleasure partnering with Kurt. Put a lot of time into this effort. He wanted us to present as Sonny and Cher tonight, but I don't sing as good as Cher. So we
You don't
have,
look as good either, Neil.
yeah, I know. In that sense. Our task force has survived a quarantine, isolation, and attrition, in addition to normal problems associated with understanding housing affordability. None of that would have been possible without the commitment of our team, who I would like to invite to stand at this time, and we have several that are live streaming, so virtually, and my appreciation. So if you, the team members, if you could please stand. Thank you very much. Among this group are professionals who care for the vulnerable, experts in grassroots, neighborhood improvement specialists in housing development and entrepreneurship, and public servants dedicated to collaboration and innovation. I also want to thank our many partners from the private and public sectors, as well as the nonprofit world. Ultimately, we want to impress upon Council that the forthcoming findings and recommendations were prepared with the help of a diversity of professional perspectives in pursuit of a comprehensive and scalable housing solution that meets a wide range of Easton's current and future needs.
We were asked by Mayor Panto to address the issue of housing affordability in Easton, focusing primarily on those individuals within the 80 to 120% median household income range. As you know, there are programs aimed at assisting those below 80%, but very little for those ready to make the leap towards generating equity and generational wealth. In short, the mayor was looking for a solution or series of solutions that would act as a hand up to Eastonians moving towards financial and housing security. Such a keystone program could promote generational wealth, and start a cascade effect of affordable owner-occupied housing solutions and business opportunities across the entire city. At first, we gathered data from our private and public sector partners and researched affordability resources in similarly sized cities. Some of them are listed there under case studies. We struggled for a while to differentiate what recommendations we needed for general housing affordability and our own individual hopes to address poverty and systemic inequities. Before our forced hiatus, Neil revealed a recent passion project that he felt could be beneficial. It's a modified savings and loan bank model aimed at empowering individuals, community members looking to buy homes with helpful financial options, education, and guidance to improve access and equity in underserved areas. It's similar to a CDFI, but flexible enough to offer community-conscious developers access to previously unavailable lucrative capital streams with clauses aimed at prolonged affordability and sustainability. We emailed throughout the lockdown about how this banking model could be married to an affordable housing solution and returned with a renewed sense of purpose. Upon reconvening, we interviewed for-profit developers, county officials, city officials, HDC executives, and began sharing our own upcoming large and small projects with greater transparency. We began to see the tangle of housing needs, funding droughts, competing local and regional interests, not as individual problems to be solved, but as a complex whole that needed to be addressed in its entirety. We broke into working groups and aimed at unraveling these issues at their sources. We looked at the following defining questions. First of all, how do we help fund public sector and nonprofit housing efforts aimed at our target demographic? How do we support individual and neighborhood needs and empower community-conscious developers and landlords? Also, how do we partner with developers, housing authorities, and area nonprofits to maximize efficiency and offer support to them? And finally, what kinds of programs and policies would empower our target demographic, incentivize developers, and provide a platform of stability and investment for decades to come? So in September 2021, we came up with a series of conclusions, drafted a set of outcomes, and presented our findings to Mayor Panto. After incorporating his revisions, we presented to the RDA board in late 2021 and received their support. Our recommendations have been shaped by Easton residents. They have been informed by experts invested in Easton's continued success and refined by public servants who have worked for years to make Easton clean, safe, and affordable.
The housing affordability crisis is here, but a global pandemic, quarantine, and rapid in-migration of wealthier property buyers fleeing larger markets has accelerated the need for a mitigating force. Estonians can see the changing market firsthand, and reports from the Brookings Institute corroborate the fact that Americans have been slowly migrating from larger cities to smaller metropolitan areas like the Lehigh Valley for the past decade. Northampton and Lehigh counties alone have welcomed thousands of new residents from the New York City and Philadelphia metro areas between 2015 and 2019. And these numbers grew exponentially during the worst of the pandemic. Mounting interest in Easton, specifically over the past decade, has caused the average home price to spike by almost 90%. And as of June 2021, the average home was sold at nearly 103% of the asking price. The attractiveness of Easton and the Lehigh Valley has given rise to out-of-state developers gradually raising rental rates, which increased by nearly 11% last year. This inflation has put homeownership further out of reach for residents looking to move from renting to owning. Adding to this pressure, the LVEDC reports that the expansion of warehouse construction throughout the Lehigh Valley has forced residents interested in rural or township living to look in the city for housing solutions. In alignment with these statistics, the Greater Lehigh Valley Realtors Association has reported a nearly 20% drop in housing inventory from August to September of 2021, and a rising number of first-time home buyers returning to the rental accommodations after being priced out of the market. This, coupled with an upward trend of older residents transitioning out of single-family homes, placing our housing market at a crossroads, and we must choose a path that will encourage improved housing and neighborhood stability for the future.
Beyond the economics of a housing shortage, there is a strong body of scientific and economic research from the past decade indicating that housing and neighborhood stability can lead to a host of benefits for adults and for children. Ludwig et al. From the journal Science in 2012 identified quantitatively how housing and neighborhood improvements can lead to physical and mental health benefits among children and young adults over time. From the American Economic Review, Chetty et al. Found connections between housing and neighborhood improvements and long-term education opportunities, income and wealth generation, and family stability. This study also points to the spread of benefits beyond the individual, the home unit, to the neighborhood and even the community at large over time. On a local level, several of our task force members work with folks transitioning from financial and housing instability to long-term security. They've shared numerous stories of how small improvements to employment and housing stability can transform previously impoverished residents into homeowners. Based on our research, mixed income neighborhoods with access to essential goods and services promote a higher quality of life, a wider breadth of community understanding, and a greater sense of belonging for most residents. The Affordable Housing Task Force is motivated to act by the state of our current housing market and the potential economic gains and citywide benefits of housing stability. Supporting the following affordable housing recommendations will lay the foundation for a richer, safer, and more robust future for Easton.
These recommendations align with certain strategic plans already in place. Objectives 1.3 of the Easton Comprehensive Plan 2035 looks towards the management and reduction of vacancy, underutilization, and blight throughout the city. We will partner with the RDA, Housing Authority, and other associates to help address these issues, increase capacity of quality housing stock, and create more opportunities for affordable housing as it concerns our target demographic. We also look towards preserving historic building character and or incorporating neighborhood appropriate historic design elements where possible, which applies to Objective 1.4. Finally, as the residential space is developed or redeveloped, and these recommendations look to the creation of a higher quality of a life, which we believe must include green spaces. Our recommendation also align with the West Ward Neighborhood Plan. While the only section, Expand Economic Prosperity, will be addressed directly, namely about items 3, establishment and promotion of live workspaces, and 4, vacant and commercial locations map, several sections of this plan resonate with what the Affordable Housing Task Force has put forward. We believe that a well-kept housing stock that maintains distinctive character as it applies to each neighborhood is crucial, as are the benefits of the community identity. We agree with the West Ward Neighborhood Plan in that various housing initiatives that address safety, affordability, and revitalization can help foster stronger neighborhoods. We align with the plan in its desire to provide upward economic mobility to people from historically disenfranchised backgrounds, be that although the creation of generational wealth or the partnership with other entities to create new commercial and investment properties. We also recognize the West Ward Choice Neighborhoods Project and the forthcoming strategic plan, and pledge ongoing support through our recommendations. Beyond these two plans, the Affordable Housing Task Force has considered the scope of the state's DCED block grant and home programs in the creation of our recommendations, and we support the creation of a Southside plan similar to the West Ward plan to showcase the culture and highlight the specific needs of Easton Southside neighborhoods.
After extensive research and collaboration, our recommendations aim to provide citizens on the edge of home ownership the opportunity to do so, to provide necessary financial and practical guidance for home ownership and home maintenance, provide area stakeholders a hub for innovative funding mechanisms and collaboration opportunities, to engage landlords and incentivize the use of best practice, unit affordability, and even the transition of select properties towards a rent-to-own model, and engage regional private developers and incentivize the building of affordable units and or the contribution of in-lieu payments. To achieve these outcomes, we aspire to form a housing development corporation that will work alongside a hybrid banking affiliate within the community and with community partners to provide greater housing affordability in Easton. The goals of this HDC are to increase the rate of home ownership by neighborhood over time for families making up to 120% median household income, to expand access to and maintain the volume of affordable housing opportunities for families at or below 80% median household income, to gather and provide education and support to new and existing homeowners and landlords, to become a repository for various financial mechanisms, and to work with private developers to create a culture promoting mixed income neighborhoods over time. Regarding the first point, we recognize the financial obstacles related to first-time homebuyers, notably regarding down payments and closing costs. Therefore, in conjunction with a hybrid community bank, this entity will develop assistance programs akin to those of past organizations that no longer operate in Easton, such as a second mortgage program for those costs. In cooperation with a newly formed RDA land bank, this entity will buy up targeted blighted properties and vacant land in the pursuit of offering thoughtful solutions to affordable housing that both keep with the aesthetic of their respective neighborhoods and are attractive specifically to families. We will work closely with landlords aiming to transition rental units to rent-to-own opportunities using deconversion grants and other tools when available. And in partnership with this bank, community bank model, we will use tailored financial tools to support home buyers who would be considered unbankable by other institutions. This entity will employ innovative marketing tools and assistance packages to reduce the barriers to home ownership for the historically underserved, to meet people where they are. We want to expand access to and maintain the volume of affordable housing opportunities for folks at or below 80% median household income. As we invest in and develop properties, we will prioritize the creation of multi-bedroom affordable options for families. We will employ innovative marketing tools and assistance packages to reduce barriers to home ownership for the historically underserved. We will work closely with the City of Easton on blight mitigation strategies to meet those concerns quickly and efficiently, expand upon existing grant and loan programs for landlords and homeowners targeting holistic property maintenance. We will work closely with property management firms to begin engaging out-of-state owners. And alongside our hybrid community bank, this entity will offer financial tools to encourage the development and retention of affordable housing year over year.
The third point is to gather and provide education and support to the new and existing homeowners and landlords. Alongside a hybrid community bank, This entity will provide financial literacy programs. Incentives could be offered to clients who engage with full regimen of courses. Various credit counseling services could be made available through the community bank for present and future clients. Business development financing programs could be made available alongside area partners to produce smarter and more successful new business owners. This entity will provide homeownership skills programs aimed at demystifying everything that goes into proper home maintenance. It will develop and maintain a detailed map of potential development sites in conjunction with neighborhood stakeholders. It will support landlords and homeowners through relief packages relating to code violation, mitigation, and renovation setbacks. It will work with neighborhood stakeholders to develop and maintain a detailed map of essential goods and services aiming to promote an array of live-work spaces that promote a higher quality of life. Fourth point, gather and become a repository for various financial mechanisms. As a partner with a community bank, this entity will be able to seamlessly offer qualified clients and partners access to attractive financing only available to this kind of institution. Additionally, this entity will streamline as many financial tools as possible from the municipal, county, and state levels to provide gap funding for clients and partners in need. It will also have the ability to write grant proposals for unconventional additions to the funding pool. Fifth point, working with area private developers to create a culture promoting mixed income neighborhoods over time. This entity will work with the city to develop a policy of in lieu contributions towards affordable housing. This entity will develop relationships with all area developers and realtors to provide guidance on neighborhoods' needs based on detailed surveys conducted with neighborhood partners. It will aim to funnel our private sector partners towards its financial incentives to help them better understand our residents and what we can offer to encourage a rise in total affordable units.
The Affordable Housing Task Force firmly believes that this housing corporation can act quickly to assist our public sector and nonprofit partners achieve their goals and grow Easton's affordable housing capacity quickly. To make the most of the time we have available, the Affordable Housing Task Force recommends the following actions. First, we need to establish the HDC with a hybrid community bank affiliate. With an initial outlay of $200,000 from the Affordable Housing Program line item of the ARPA budget and matching contributions from partner banks and partner employers, the process of forming the 501c2 can begin immediately with members of the task force serving as its first governing board. Staff can be hired to begin developing programs and taking on projects from the RDA Land Bank, as well as assisting Neil Kaplan and his bank partners with the formation of the community bank and its physical location in either the South Side or West Ward. We need to create a land bank with the RDA. With a contribution of $1 million from the blight elimination, owner-occupied facade grants line item from the ARPA budget, the RDA would generate a land bank by acquiring blighted and vacant properties throughout the city. The RDA will have a memorandum of understanding with the forthcoming HDC that these entities will work collaboratively on these and future projects. The RDA and HDC will deposit land into the bank when appropriate, and both entities, along with other stakeholders, will have representation on the land bank board. We look to create a renovation fund with a contribution of $1 million from the Affordable Housing Program line item from the ARPA budget. The HDC will establish a renovation fund to rehabilitate properties from the land bank and begin generating its own capital to be reinvested back into the creation of more affordable housing options. Fourth, we want to create a remediation and deconversion fund. So $300,000 from the affordable housing line item from the ARPA budget. We will establish a fund for landlord remediation incentives in pursuit of greater collaboration and an overall sense of quality affordable rental stock throughout the city, bringing people to the table. With a contribution of $200,000 from the deconversion grants line item, the ARPA budget, the HDC would establish a fund for the transition of rental properties into owner-occupied housing options to support its mission to increase owner occupancy per neighborhood over time. And finally, We want to grow capacity. We want to take on first projects. With a contribution of $209,000 from the blight elimination owner-occupied facade grants line item, the RDA will acquire the former Porter School location on the south side. As the HDC is being established, the RDA will perform all ground soil remediation to make the property shovel-ready to be the first project. And with a contribution of $1 million from the Affordable Housing Program line item, the RDA will acquire the property at 145 South 11th Street in partnership with the HDC. Alongside the RDA and other public sector partners, and with patient capital from contributing employers and banks, the HDC will develop the property to quickly increase affordable housing capacity. To conclude, the mayor has not been shy, in fact, he just recently said it, about how much his family benefited from affordable housing when they needed it the most. My own family was landless sharecroppers a few generations ago before a land grant helped them towards housing stability. I don't know if my great-grandmother could have even imagined half of the things I've done before turning 40. Even if you, council members, have not directly benefited from such programs, I'm sure that we can agree that building equity is a great first step towards creating generational wealth. I know, as do the rest of the task force, that the complex factors contributing to housing affordability are only a part of larger systemic inequities. However, after a year and a half of digging deep down towards the core of these issues, we believe that by working together to be as agile and efficient as possible, while gathering as many resources as possible, and supporting each other in the preservation of affordable quality housing, we can empower our residents to build wealth and create legacies of their own. Then, together, we can all meet the unforeseen challenges of the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Kurt, Neil, thank you. Well, and the members of the committee who are here, I thank you so much for your service. It's not over, but it's just the beginning. Now we have to implement. You presented to me and now to council. They will see the ARPA budget on March 23rd and the money we want to put towards rehabilitation and affordability. I believe they'll be supportive, but I invite you to begin the process of implementation. And that's a lot of work to do. But I think working with our redevelopment authority and the Westward Community Initiative and Southside Civic, maybe we can pull together the resources that are needed to bring this to fruition. So thank you very much, Neil and Kurt and the members of the committee. And if there's anyone at City Council has any questions, now's the time to ask. I wish we got $120 million, but we only got $20 million, and it took us 3 months of lobbying to go from $2 million to $20 million. But there is at least the nucleus to start this process, and I think that's important. And President Biden was very clear that the objectives of this American Rescue Plan is not just to give cities money to do whatever we want with. There's rules from the U.S. Treasury, and one of those rules is homelessness, affordable housing, infrastructure, primarily broadband, which we are also looking at broadband for the West Ward. It's estimated that only about 30% of the kids who go to Paxnosa School have access to the internet to do their homework. So creation of hotspots and things like that throughout that part of the West Ward and South Side are going to be very important components. I know Mazen's been looking at that and going to the Northampton County task force that they have assembled for broadband deployment throughout the county. There are some parts of the county that are worse than the city. But those definitely be things that we'll be looking at with the American Rescue Plan in our budget. But high on the list, especially right now, is affordability of housing.
I know there's a lot to digest, and I'm happy to answer any questions right now, but if you come up with questions also later, we can make ourselves available to answer anything.
Dr. Ruggles.
I just want to congratulate the task force. In reading the report, not often do you see a report that's very thorough, but then also suggestions of how you move forward. And I think that's that's really the meat of this proposal is how is it that we move forward, you know? And I really appreciate the expertise of all the individuals that were on the committee, that when you bring a group of people together like that and you have those varying viewpoints and varying degrees of expertise, you can generate something like this that gives us a great path to actually move forward. So I really want to thank you about that. The only thing that you got to have something other than HDC.
Well, yeah. It's a
Because I read that
placeholder.
and I was like, what's the Historic District Commission doing here? But no,
We'll come up with something very snappy.
But I really believe that you guys did a great job, and I really appreciate the path forward.
Great. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone from the audience have any questions for our Affordable Housing Task Force or comments? Okay, we'll move on to public comment. At this point of our meeting, we have public comment on agenda items only. If you're here for an agenda item, fine. If not, there's time at the end of the meeting for comments or questions about anything with the City of Easton. There's no consent agenda. There's no reports to be received. We'll move right into reports to the committees. Mr. Brown isn't here. Economic Development Committee, Mr. O'Connell.
I have no report, Mayor.
Planning and Codes, Councilman Sultana.
No report.
Public Safety, Councilman Ruggles.
I just want to report to council that this is not exactly a public safety issue, but the Recreation Department just put out a survey to seniors in the city of Easton and asking about what recreational activities they would be interested in. And we're trying to gather information to try to put together a plan so that we can develop programming for our seniors. And so if you have that opportunity to get somebody to fill out the survey, I think we got 12 back so far, but we'd like to get a lot more, and we'd like to get a lot more interest in that type of a program so that we can develop something that individuals want, okay? And so if you see that, please have people fill it out. Thank you.
Okay, Public Works Committee, Councilman Ettinger.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no report for tonight. We will, however, be meeting on the 22nd to be updated on various projects throughout the city.
Administration Committee, Councilman Milan.
I have no report, Mayor.
Report of Solicitor, Mr. Scheer.
I have no report, but is the mayor still thinking of okay, so I'll announce now that at the conclusion of the regular meeting, there will be a brief exec session to discuss a matter concerning real estate leasing.
Thank you, Mr. Scheer. The only thing I have to report was the executive session, so moving on to the City Administrator, Louis Campos. All right, moving on to, there's no correspondence, no unfinished business to come before City Council. New business, Madam Clerk.
Alrighty. 1 second.
Time's up.
We have Bill number 1 being introduced by Roger Ruggles, which will amend Chapter 1 of General Provisions of the Code of the City of Easton.
So introduced.
We have Bill number, oh, that was Bill number 3, I'm sorry.
I know, we know.
Okay. Bill number 4, also being introduced by Dr. Ruggles, amending Chapter 12, Authorities Municipal of the Code of the City of Easton.
So introduced.
And then we have Bill number 5, also being introduced by Dr. Ruggles, which would be amending Chapter 17, Bond of the Code of the City of Easton.
So introduced.
Okay. We have the resolution where, also introduced by Dr. Ruggles, which would approve the promotional appointment within the Easton Fire Department for Ronald Dean to captain.
So move.
Second.
Moved in second, any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
And Mayor Pianto?
Aye.
Okay, we have a resolution being introduced by Mr. O'Connell, giving the Department of Economic Development the authority or the permission actually to apply for a grant for it's actually the Wood Avenue Street, what is it, Wood Avenue Street? To rehab that from 13th Street to Northampton Street.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
And Mr. Ettinger.
Aye.
And we also have a resolution being introduced by Mr. Milan, which is amending the 2022 salary and wage, where we're increasing the amount of firefighters from 39 to 43.
Moved. Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I just have one question regarding procedure. I guess it's more of a solicitor question. Hi, how are you? How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Fantastic. Is this procedure absolutely necessary that we have to update a resolution for the amount of firefighters that we have or any kind of staffing change? I feel like it's...
The only way I think it might be relevant is if it's part of salary and wage ordinance and we have a number of staff, but otherwise, I'm not sure that there is any need for that.
I don't think there is, actually, because we don't have an ordinance anymore. It's all set by the budget. So I think the requirement that we pass these when something changes, to me, seems kind of moot. I mean, it's all dictated by the budget, correct?
Well, I mean, your salary and wage ordinance is going to dictate the number of people, but I'm not sure.
don't have
Salary and wage ordinance does not dictate.
Does not-
number of people.
does-
It dictates the amount of money in the budget.
You have it within the department. Does our collective bargaining agreement refer to number of people that we agree as just the minimum manning part?
Just minimum manning.
Yeah,
manning.
so I'm not sure that there's any need.
Well, let me just give you the history of this because most communities do not have this. We talked about this the other day at staff meeting. Most communities do not have a salary and wage resolution.
Right.
They have the budget. What happened, I think, historically, maybe here in Easton, I don't know, but in other cities that do have one. So let's say the mayor goes ahead and appoints 60 firefighters because he or she has enough money in the budget to cover it till the end of the year. And then at the end of the year, he presents a budget asking for 60 firefighters, and the council doesn't approve it, and they got to lay off 20 people or 17 people. It was a way of controlling the administration's hiring of numbers of people, not necessarily budget. And that's the only reason why you have it. There's no other reason. It's just to control it. What we have is, of the 4 that are being added, 1 is in question. The 3 are in the budget and should have been done as part of the budget, and it was. But the 1 is we have a retirement we just found out about that the next candidate has the medical background to miss the first couple weeks of the academy, so we can still get them in the academy at the end of March. But that doesn't say the salary and wage ordinance says 42.
But I guess, I mean, Mayor, it's not a matter of the firefighters. It's not. I'm not questioning the number. I think.
I know what you're right. I question it too.
No, I'm not questioning the number. I mean,
No, I'm
you guys
not
have to hire firefighters. I just want to clarify. I'm not questioning the number of firefighters. I think just this procedure we do, I feel like it's just, you have a budget. You have a $7 million budget for firefighters. If you wanted to go over that, you have to come back to us for an amendment, correct?
Well,
So theoretically,
let me tell you something. I use an example other than firefighters. I have a 2 years I've been without administrative assistant because of COVID and because of the lack of money. So right now, if I don't hire anyone until June, I could actually, within the budget, I can hire 2 because they would be paid 50% each for 50% of the year. So next year, I present a budget that has 2 assistants plus a secretary, and council saying, no, you only have 2. We're only going to budget you enough for 2. So you got to lay 1 off, and in the city, which we're self-insured, you're paying that person's unemployment for 6 months.
right, but you still have a discretion, Mayor. It's your discretion. I mean, you have a budget. You have a budget.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think the resolution really does anything except for tell us that this many people and this is the salary.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I don't disagree with you. I'm agreeing with you. I'm just saying the reason why it was done.
I might have more to say if I could actually see the resolution, but the package that I have doesn't get
you know
these
why?
items
You
whether
know
or
why?
not packaged.
You know why? Because it was sent afterwards.
Yeah, and I
You
didn't,
can buy
and I didn't get a copy.
That's fine.
That's that list where I don't get it.
That's the super secret list, by the way.
Yes.
You're not included on that
It's
list.
just
Dr.
to,
Ruggles.
just to make it more fun when you ask me a question.
It wasn't a trick question. I just asked.
No, but I think it's actually a very good point because I think, I think it's something to take under consideration for the future because it may be it may be creating more of an exposure or liability than you need.
I have no problem getting rid of it.
I mean,
I would have to, I would defer to our auditors, just because I think they've referenced the document, due to the transparency of it.
Because it's there. If
Yeah.
it's not there, they
I mean,
can't
well, I
reference
mean,
it.
but
I
you can
find
do
it-
one at the beginning of the year, though, Mayor.
I find
Yeah.
it, I mean, it seems to be very bureaucratic, but at the same time, it offers a level of transparency.
Okay, Dr. Ruggles.
I could be wrong. I don't have it right in front of me, but my recollection in reading the salary and wage ordinance, it had on there so many firefighters.
Correct.
There's an actual number. So we passed that document. Now, if there's a change to that document,
We would have a new
wouldn't we
resolution.
have to do
Yeah,
it by resolution?
Well, I think it would be wise. The question is whether.
I mean, whether that it
Well,
should
well,
be there or not, I
Yeah,
don't care, but I'm
the
just saying,
question
it's
is
there.
whether I think it's something worthy of administration thinking about exploring with the auditor, because it may well be that for the wage and hour salary ordinance, we put in a dollar amount in the budget without saying the number of people, and this would be an informational item as a report that this covers the current force of 60 firefighters. But it wouldn't have the appearance of mandating something. And that's where you might be better off not boxing yourself into where someone
I
comes
don't
up with an
disagree.
argument.
I'm just saying, I think that's
No, but I think your
reason
point's
for
valid,
doing
and that's why since Councilman Milan raises a good point, I think it's something we could all think about and consider in the future.
But I don't think we have an ordinance, though.
It used to be an ordinance years
It used to
ago,
be, but-
and for some reason, and I can't tell you when, it became a resolution, not
The
an ordinance.
resolution sets the number, the ordinance is the budget that sets the amount.
Okay, but it used to be an
Right.
actual
I think-
ordinance
No.
itself.
I think we should really look into this because I think it's additional administrative burden that we don't really need, except for the fact that you're telling us that you're hiring somebody. I mean, we already budgeted the money. I mean, it's your discretion.
Okay.
So,
I was remiss in not recognizing our Court of Common Pleas in Northampton County President Judges in the audience. I'm sorry, Your Honor. I should have recognized you in the very beginning of the meeting, not at the end, but thank you for coming. We'll get to the vote right now.
Mr. O'Connell,
The resolution
the
amending the salary.
resolution for the salary and wage. Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana,
Aye.
Mayor Pianta.
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger.
Aye.
And Mr. Milan.
aye.
At this point, we have public comment on any matter facing the city of Easton. Questions, comments, or concerns? 5 minutes at the podium. Please give your name and address. No one? Thank you very much. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Yeah, we're adjourning the public
meeting.
meeting, and we're going to go into exec session.
So moved.
Aye.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved in second. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. O'Connell.
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles.
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana.
Aye.
Mayor Pianto.
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger.
Aye.
And Mr. Milan.
Aye.
Thanks, Kurt.
Thank you.